All right, I am back from Salvage Slam Summer 2025, and it was a super awesome event. I hope you watched my list building episode from last week. I had a really good time at this. I did make a minor change to my list last minute. I did end up dropping that Blackhawk KU like literally last minute and putting in that Phoenix Hawk 2C. Don't know if it made a huge difference in the game, but I did end up doing it after consulting my friend Tom Bovey about it. He thought that the extra point of health was going to be more important than the extra point of damage at range 6. And I don't know. Maybe it made a difference. Maybe it didn't. I know that Phoenix Hawk is about twice as tall as the Black Hawk. And so it both allowed me to shoot things and also exposed me to things at different rates, I guess. But overall, it was still cool. It was cool to put like this old chunky unseen, because I have a metal unseen model I bought off my buddy Chris Hesby recently for that Shadow Hawk. It was fun to put that on the board and just like stomp it around and just be super cool with it. But had a great time. Such a fun event that my buddy Jamie and Ryan and John put on. They did a really good job doing it. The salvage component of it was really fun, because you could like trick out your mechs and like add new stuff and things like that. So basically what we did is there's 14 players. It was 3 rounds. The first round we played a local mission that we've been working on that is a lot of fun called Dropship Down. Think of it like King of the Hill, but with 3 objectives in the middle. And then the objectives become hot at the end of the first 3 turns. And so you don't know what order they're gonna go hot that you can score on. So you kind of have to like guess at that and spread out, and then you have to take these 3 center objectives and get on them to control them so that you can score. And so it's not the mosh pit that is King of the Hill. There's still like long range dueling and fighting and like trying to get on objectives and control things by weight. So it's really good. It's a lot of fun. The second mission they played was Under Pressure. It's the beta mission that's in the most recent 3.0 WolfNet 350 pack. Part of that was because it's a beta. We thought it'd be a good idea to run it in a larger event to get feedback on it. And I have some thoughts on that mission. At the end of this, I'll give them to you because it was pretty rough. The consensus was the mission needs work. I'll put it like that for now. And we'll talk about it at the end of this episode. And then the last was the new Headhunter, which was for those of you who don't know, the way Headhunter changed was that your most expensive unit has to be one of your officers, one of your commanders in Headhunter. And then I think, if I remember right, infantry can no longer be one of your officers. And so whatever your highest point costed thing is, so you can't just be like, oh, these 2 like skimmers are running around or whatever, and like you can never catch them or find them. So like you bring a big 60 point slow mech, like that guy's going to be your boss. And I had my Contio for 52 points, and I wanted him to be in the fight, clawing things to death because of upgrades he had and how awesome he is in hand-to-hand combat. But he had to be my commander because he's my most expensive unit. And then I really couldn't commit him. And so I didn't really think about that when I put the Contio in. Quick recap of my list. I'll just go through it real super quick. I had Contio, I had an Ebony 10, I had a Warhammer 2C, I think it was the 10 or 11. It's the one that does 770. I had the Warhammer 2C8, the one that throws heat. I had a Pike Plasma. I had a Phoenix Hawk 2C. And I think that was it. I had a Heavy Hover with the MG as well. It definitely was not like a super competitive list. I know I kind of said as much in my list building episode. It had its moments. It struggled in ways, but it was fun to run it. And the funny thing was, I think 3 of us ran Contios out of 14 players, because when else are you going to be able to run a Contio except in a event that allows you to like use proxies or 3D prints because it's non-official, and that is also running Ilcon. So like 3 of us ran Contios, and it was pretty sweet to see all the Contio action on the board. Contio is a lot of fun. I loved having the Contio in the game, and I think he never died, which was also awesome. But the problem with like, I don't know, I just had a problem with like my melee focused units not really like doing the output, and on some level I just wish I had, instead of 82 points of melee, I had, 82 points of bullets going down range more often, because it was kind of rough. I had a hard time like removing units from the board efficiently, like especially my first game against my buddy John. So it just was like, it was tough. It was real tough. So just so you know how the salvage went in this, every game after you deployed your terrain and objectives, you then took turns deploying 5 salvage tokens. 4 of them were worth 1 point. 1 of them was worth 2 points. At the end of a turn, if you if you were on it and it was uncontested, you picked it up. And then at the end of each game, you scored that salvage point. You kept track of it, and you could spend it to buy both um, generic upgrades for your units, or you could go get an envelope from Ryan, the game master, the tournament organizer, and that envelope had unique items that only you could buy that round, including units. So you started off with 250 points, but in your next game you might have 265, and then the game after that you might have 280, just depending on what units were available and if you have the salvage to purchase them, right? So this made it kind of unique and fun and goofy, and I ended up buying a couple of extra units that were fun to throw in there for the lulz, I guess. So let's go ahead and talk about game 1. So in game 1, I played my buddy John Thel. We played Dropship Down. I don't have like the complete lists of all my opponents, of all the things that they ran, but John basically had like an axe. He had an axeman, a shadowhawk, a rifleman, a cougar, and a bunch of fast nonsense like super upgraded TMM4 jumpy, like light scouty mechs. And I think he had some battle armor as well. John went on to win the award for collecting the most salvage, by the way. And I think a lot of it had to do with just how fast his stuff was ultimately. His light stuff was super annoying and super hard to kill because most of the time it was sitting at TMM4, and some of it I think even had stealth, if I remember right. The game started off like pretty decently. I ended up getting like 4 salvage right out of the gate. I got 2 1s and the 2, and the game was like pretty like back and forth, but because I didn't have like that effective shooting and I had to close with those melee units. I just could not, like, I had a hard time sealing deal. Like there were several rounds where like I was leaving like 1 or 2 units of John's on the board with like 1 or 2 hit points. So the next round they got to shoot again. And if it's like, man, if I just did like 1 or 2 more hit points to these units, like I would have cleared them off and it would have like really started to like roll him more. But because I couldn't finish him off because I just didn't have the firepower. And John's like, also, John is a very, very good player. So that didn't help either. Like John knows how to play Alpha Strike, and he's very competent and very good, and he usually beats me. So spoiler alert, he beat me here as well. It did not go well for the Capella Confederation. I just couldn't finish him off though. And then I think in the last like 4 turns of the game, when it really mattered, like I just never won an initiative. And he had this cougar running around with 1 hit point left, and I was whittled down, and I just could not, because I had to like get on the objectives and hold them. I just couldn't like get my arc on him, and he was always activating him last to keep him alive. And this cougar had like 6 or 7 shots at close range, and then he was getting in the rear, and it was just absolutely devastating. The ultimate score was I had 2, John had 4. He did 231 MOV to me, so basically tabled me. I think all I had left was my pike. So actually, yeah, my Contio did die in a game. And then I only killed 131 points of his. And basically, like, all his super fast nonsense was left, and all his big stuff was dead. Like, I was able to wipe the big stuff out, but I just couldn't touch all his fast stuff, and I just didn't have the bodies to, like, contest the objectives once they went all live. I got out ahead like really quick. I got 2 points to his 0, but there just came a point where like he had more stuff and weight, and I just lacked guns to be able to clear him off the board because of his TMM being so high. And then losing initiative was like super rough. It's just like this is. I hate using the initiative thing as an excuse because John definitely outplayed me. Like he definitely outplayed me in this game, but I just couldn't clear him off the board, and the initiative made that situation even worse. And John got a much deserved win. He went 4-2, although I did get more salvage than him because I got 4 and he got 2. And I used that salvage to buy an urban mech, a 220 urban mech, which is kind of stupid, but like I forewent the other upgrades to my mechs and was like, I'm just gonna put an urban mech on the board because this will be awesome. But it was a fun match. It was really tough, and it was like at least for the first 2/3 of the game, I think it was like pretty back and forth, and it was pretty good. It was just like I said, like I couldn't like seal the deal and knock some of the like his axeman was down to 1, his cougar was down to 1, his rifleman I got down to like 2, and like I just couldn't clear off the board, and then those units are shooting the next turn. And we've talked about this in other videos, like you have to be able to focus your fire and clear units, because if you don't clear units, their guns are available the next turn, and that really hurt me. So and I think a big part of it was like having 2 units that were fairly highly point costed that really were on the board to do melee. I mean, not the Cantio so much, but definitely that Ebony is like 30 points of not shooting every round. And while the Ebony, like when he did connect in all my games, like and got hits, he connected. Like I very rarely missed in melee, if not at all. The problem was usually that turn or the turn after he died because he was just too close to the enemy. So I think in the future I might not take that Ebony, honestly, but it was tough. So round 2, I played Lux. Lux is a new player. I think Lux said that they learned to play Alpha Strike the night before this tournament. And Lux and I ended up playing Under Pressure, which is the new beta mission, which needs some work. I think that was the consensus of everyone in the room. The game ends very, very fast if you don't set up the terrain right and block your doors. And if you're on a board that doesn't really allow you to do that, you're kind of out of luck. And then even if you are able to do that, the game ends very, very quickly because the bunkers are too easy to kill. And I was able to like block out my doors so Lux couldn't see them. And Lux was only able to like partially screen one of his doors because of the terrain that Lux chose to deploy. And I was able to deploy terrain in such a way that left his other bunker open so that he couldn't use terrain to block the entrance. And I ignored his entire force, Lux's entire force. Lux had like a pair of Mad Cats, a Flea, a Hunchback, a Blackhawk, an Axeman, and a couple other things. I just ignored them and just focused on one bunker, and then the next turn focused on the other bunker, and the game was over 4-0. Lux destroyed my pike and got 19 MOV. I got 0 MOV on Lux. Then I also got 4 salvage, and Lux got 2. At the end of this, I'm going to recap and talk about what I think we as a group, we all kind of talked about Under Pressure and what we think might make, because there's definitely like potential there. Like we can see what they're trying to beta test, what WolfNet's trying to beta test and trying to do, and we can see that there's some potential there. And people like threw out some good ideas as like for like feedback, but it definitely needs work because of the 7 games, I think 5 of them went only 2 or 3 turns, and then the other 2 maybe went 4 turns, and basically we were done an hour early. Like everyone's games were done an hour early, and someone won 4 points and blew up both bunkers. So I used my salvage. I had 1 point of salvage left over from round 1, and then I got 4 more. I ended up buying a Pegasus that was a 2/2 Pegasus. I got Melee Master and Speed Boost and put those on my Cantio. So the Melee Master made the Cantio skill 1 less skill when attacking in hand-to-hand combat, and the Speed Boost gave him 1 round where he could move 3 additional inches. So he made him faster and made him more clawy, more scratchy, which was pretty cool. Except the next round I played Headhunter, and my Contio had to be my CO, and I did not want him in hand-to-hand combat. And the reason was that I was playing, I was playing a buddy of mine, and he was running like this just nonsense like vehicle swarm list, basically vehicle swarm list. He had a stalker, a mad cat, a demolisher, manticore, bulldog, J. Edgar, Stinger and Wasp, and the demolisher, manticore, and bulldog just like ran around like as a group, just like wrecking shop. Jacob's such a fun player. He does such a good job of like um building lists, and he has a super cool like um Free Worlds League list with like gold chains and stuff. It's like totally pimped out. And I just was like, I'm not running in there. And we also did this like super goofy like terrain deployment where like I basically built like a city in one corner and stacked hills super high, because my idea was like, I'm gonna draw him in and make him fight me at close range with all this like melee stuff and these big guns that I have that do a lot at short range, and they had a bunch of heat. And he was like, I will never go in there. And so I had like all this train stacked in one corner, and then we had like a whole portion of the board that was like wide open. And then he deployed everything in the opposite corner. He had a stalker, his stalker, which moves like only 4, and a pike hide in that corner the whole game. And then I had to choose my Contio to be a leader. And then half as a joke, but also half serious, I made the Urban Mech my second commander, which seems really stupid, and it probably was. But my idea was like, I'm going to make the Urban Mech my commander. And then I'm going to have him back here, and I'm going to try to use that as a way to tempt him to come into this like death cage city fight where I can just melee him and like heat damage him to death. It didn't work, and the Urban Mech, but the Urban Mech didn't die, which is awesome. Because I hit him the whole time, and he's just like, a couple times he thought about going in with like his J. Edgar, and he was like, yeah, I'm not doing that because you'll kill me with flamethrowers. So we play Headhunter. We have this like crazy terrain set up. I kind of snuck out and I destroyed one unit. He had I think it was he had like some upgrades that he had bought. It was like a Vindicator or um, something along those lines that he had bought. It was just like a 2/2 medium mech that is like TMM2 that was trash. I snuck out and killed it real quick. And I told them, I said, if this was really competitive, because there's no way you're coming into the city to kill my leaders, and there's no way I'm going to cross all this open terrain with all your guns to go get yours. I'd probably just fall back and win on MOV and take the 0-0 win at this point. But we were playing in like a not serious, like fun narrative event. So I started pushing on him and just whittling him down slowly and trying to like thread needles. And one of the things that helped me like threading these needles and trying to pick fights, and this is like a good strategy to think about, is like he had that stalker and that pike in his back corner, and they really couldn't affect the battlefield where they were at. So he was basically playing like with 70-80 points less than I was, and I was able to engage the rest of his force with my full force. And I felt pretty good about whittling him down. Like we were going, I wouldn't say unit for unit, like 1 for 1, but it was like 1.5 for 1, because he really didn't have these other units in the fight. And then on a couple rounds, I was able to like kind of position myself in a way that might like take 1 or 2 of his units out of the fight. But out of the fight, I don't mean like they couldn't see to shoot, but like they definitely like had a harder time hitting. And that like was really key to like removing units from the board and like degrading his shots. I got lucky a couple times. I think I stunned his bulldog at one point, which basically like let me ignore the bulldog for like a turn and just be like, well, I'm not going to finish him off because he's basically out, and I'll just kill him next turn when he's stunned and he's -4 to hit. I tried to really focus my fire. I diligently tried to use my heat on his vehicles because he had a lot of vehicles to like double up on the shots. And because they were slower vehicles, the heat was more reliably hitting. And just like whittle him down. I strategically like threw away the ebony to get like a couple of melee kills and draw fire. I pulled the Contio out but kept my distance because he's TMM3 plus he's got stealth and he'd be in the woods, and then so that's 5, 6, 7. for range, and then like 4 more because the skill. So it was like 11s to hit, but I kind of threw him out there to bait and try to draw fire off because I was pretty confident he couldn't kill him, even with like focus fire if he needed like 10s, 11, 12s to hit, and just like slowly whittled him down. The problem was like when you're playing that kind of game in a tournament setting, like you're just going to run out of time. And that's exactly what happened to us. We ran out of time. Although I will say that my pike had long range shots and he got into this like long range duel with the stalker. I positioned the pike in such a way that only the stalker could see him and um, he could only see the stalker. Um, and I did that because I was like, well, the stalker's only throwing 2 at long range, and if he's got to chew through like whatever 9 points of damage or whatever it is on that pike, but I'm like, but I maybe can shut the stalker down, and then he's immobile for a turn, and then I can like really blitz him. I did manage to shut him down, but I never got to the point where I could blitz him because he got shut down on the last turn. And part of that was because Jacob decided to overheat for the lulls, and so he shut himself down essentially. We both kind of talked about the game, like the train that we set up was goofy and dumb. I mean, it is a way to deploy the train. It is a unique way to do it. Probably if we had unlimited time and it was like our normal Wednesday night group, I probably end up winning that game, just because like I think at the end of the game, all Jacob had left was like his pike. I think he had a stalker left. He had his J. Edgar left. He had the Demolisher left at the end of the game. And I can't remember if any of them had any sort of meaningful damage on them, but I still was throwing like 18 points of damage at medium across all my stuff. And I think that Demolisher and the J. Edgar would have been pretty easy to take out. And then with the stalker shut down, I would have just blitzed it. You never know in a dice game. Like I had some stuff that was beat up as well. Like I wasn't like in great shape because, like I said, we were going like it was like I would lose 1, he would lose 1.5, and so it was like this attrition game that we were playing. So ultimately, it was still a lot of fun. We went 0-0. I scored 159 MOV if I remember right, and he scored 103. So you see where there's like one for every 1 point I killed, I killed 1.5 points. We both took 3 salvage. At the end of the entire tournament, I ended up going. So technically, I won 2 and I lost 1. I got 6 total objective points. So I went 2, 4, and 0 on my objective. I got 290 MOV, which is like not fantastic, especially if you consider like a lot of people were buying extra units, which gave you even more MOV. And part of that was like I just didn't kill anything game 2, and then John. I didn't score a lot of MOV against John, and me and Jacob got into this like grind. Like I scored 159 points on Jacob in MOV, and that was with him having 2 extra units, right? My army just did not have the damage output that it really needed. So I went 2-4-0 with 2 wins and 1 loss, and I ended up with 11 salvage. I ultimately took 6th place out of 14. So I was pretty happy with that, even though I think my army really, really struggled. I built an alternative list, and I almost thought about playing it. It had the 2 Warhammer 2Cs that deal 770 that I talked about. It also had I think it had if I remember right, it had the Black Hawk, and then it had that Phoenix Hawk 2C, which are like 650 on the Black Hawk and then 550 on the Phoenix Hawk. And then I had the Shadow Hawk that was like 440. And then I had like a bunch of hover stuff like to make up the difference. And that thing dealt like, if I remember right, it dealt like 28 or 29 or 30 points of damage at medium and had like 70 body. And it probably would have done a little better. It would have struggled grabbing salvage, but I think it would have destroyed more stuff. But I mean, when else are you going to run a Contio though? And so I don't know. I had fun with the list ultimately, and I took 6th place. So cannot complain about that. Ultimately, our friend Dave Richards took 1st place as per usual. Our buddy Jamie took 2nd place. John beat me and like 2 other guys for most salvage at 12. And then we kind of voted on most goofy, wonkiest mech, we'll say. And Tom Bovey ended up taking this Wendigo, sorry. And I believe it was a Wendigo. He'll probably correct me in the comments if I got it wrong. And basically, like, you couldn't kill it. It was basically a pogo stick jumping machine with jump strong, all the TMM, and then it did like a million bazillion damage in melee, and just did like extra crits because he just focused on upgrading it, and it was pretty awesome. Um, we'll go ahead and talk about final thoughts. I love Dropship Down. I think it's great. At some point, I'll probably drop a video on how to play it. We're still fleshing a couple things out in our local group, but it's really good. Like, you have 3 objectives in the middle. At the end of turn 1, you roll, and one of them becomes active. And then at the end of turn 2, another one of the remaining one becomes active. And the end of turn 3, the third one becomes active. And it's basically you score a point at the end of the round if you control more objectives than your opponent. And so it forces you into the middle, just like King of the Hill, but it also spreads you out. And it's great because there's like variables, like the mission can change so much from every time you play it because you don't know which order the objectives are going to activate. So you have to kind of cover everything to start off with. You don't just like get to like just run on a single objective and hold it. And also because of the way that the objectives activate, the game is like more or less guaranteed to go a minimum of 4 turns, which is great. You don't end up with like, the next mission we're going to talk about, Under Pressure, where like the game is over like as soon as you deploy terrain, which is essentially what happened in all our Under Pressure games. Like, anyone who had played the mission before, which were like a lot of our veteran players in our group, won outright because they understood how the mission is played with terrain, which is basically like block your entrances and stop your opponent from blocking theirs. And there's a lot of like hard problems with the mission in that like the bunkers are way too easy to kill, especially because they get the -4. And so in the rules, they get -4 to be hit because they're immobile. Um, And so, like, basically, you don't roll dice, which is I think is a problem. Like, you have to be able to like roll dice to determine if the bunker can be destroyed. Like, I just line up 20 points of damage, open the door, and it's gone, and I don't even have to like. There's no chance in it. There's no die roll. Even if like the immobile modifier wasn't in there, making them like on average sixes to hit, the bunker sixes to hit, like only 60% of those shots are going in. So if I'm throwing 20 sets of dice at it, only 12 are hitting in theory, like if you do the math right, or maybe 13. So you're not destroying it in turn 1. It's still pretty rough though. I don't know how there's definitely potential there. Like, a lot of us thought it's like cool because you got to like get on the pressure plate, open the door, and then destroy it. We threw out like a bunch of different ideas. Like, do you make it to where like you get on the pressure plate and it only opens the door the following turn? So then you have an opportunity during shooting to destroy units that are on pressure plates so that they don't open your bunker doors. I think that would help. We all wondered, like, if you took the bunkers and instead of having the doors facing you, they face inward. So it's like you open the door, but you can't just open the door and shoot straight at them. You have to like open the door, but then also have stuff positioned like off to the side to draw line of sight to them. Do you do that? Do you take away the immobile, the immobile modifier to make them harder to hit? I think like I said, I think there's something there. It's just, it's it's too easy to win. And like, I played Lux, and Lux is a new player, and the game, as soon as he said like, I've never played this mission before, this is like my 3rd game of Alpha Strike, I was like, oh, this is going to be rough. Like, there's just no way around it. And it's like there's only so much terrain on the board even to block doors, and so it just got to be really hard. And like I said, of the 7 games, I bet all of them were over in 45 minutes, and most of them were over in 20 minutes or less. So it was tough. There's definitely things that can be worked on with that, and I think it's in beta form for a reason, so the community can test it. So if you've played it, I'd email Andrew and Aaron and let them know what your thoughts are and what your ideas are, because they need that feedback from the community so that they can make sure that these missions work. And ultimately, like, it'd be fun to have more missions with bunkers that use the bunker mechanic, so that they can be used. And also, like, I wonder if there's a way to make infantry more relevant in that one, like it is for bunkers. So then infantry also become more necessary and relevant as well. But Under Pressure definitely needs like real work, because it's just too easy to like score all the points in a turn or two. Like, you can in this game, if you do it right, and you have enough damage output, you can win on turn 1. Most armies are going to go at least till turn 2, but Anyways, if you participated, thanks for coming. And if you've played fun narrative events recently, or you have any thoughts or comments, leave them below. Otherwise, may the blessings of Blake be upon you.